Go ahead and call the Sherwood School Board to order for Tuesday, June 15th. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, just a quick comment on our agenda tonight. There are going to be two different public comment opportunities. We'll do a public hearing on the budget, and there'll be an opportunity for any public testimony anybody wants to make on the budget. Then we'll move to action items that are around the budget. Then we'll come back to public comment, which is our ordinary general public comment on whatever topics anybody would happen to want to speak to. And with that, I'll go ahead and open a public hearing on the approved 2021-2022 budget and turn it over to Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Chair Allen, Superintendent Cordy, members of the board. Good evening. As you know, Oregon budget law requires the public school districts to adopt a budget by the end of June each year. Sherwood School District Budget Committee was presented with the superintendent's proposed budget on June 2nd, and the committee reviewed the budget and gave the opportunity for public testimony at that time. The committee voted to approve the budget as submitted with no changes. The approved budget is now before you for a public hearing, allowing further public testimony and consideration by the board. The budget as approved by the budget committee at their meeting on June 2nd remains unchanged, and no further changes are recommended by the administration. The total budget for the general fund is $59,312,107. And the total budget for all funds, including general fund, special revenue, debt service, and capital projects, is $101,458,776. After the hearing, the board may make limited changes to the approved budget. Local budget law allows the board to lower expenditures in any fund or to increase in expenditures in any fund limited to 10% of that fund. Once board consideration is complete, the board must take action to adopt the budget.
Any questions for Mr. Rose? All right, we're now open for public comment. No one signed up to make public comment on the budget. Is there anyone who hadn't signed up but did want to testify about the budget? All right, if not, then we will go ahead and close the public hearing on the budget and move on to action items. The first action item has three components: adoption of the budget, approval of appropriations, and the levying of property taxes. Mr. Rose, any comment you want to make?
I was just going to explain that piece, which you just did, so we're good.
Great. In that case, I think we're ready for a motion.
Mr. Chair, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sherwood School District hereby adopts the budget as approved by the Budget Committee on June 2nd, 2021 for the fiscal year 2021-22 for the total amount of $101,458,776. This budget is now on file at the Office of the Superintendent in Sherwood, Oregon. Be it further resolved that the amounts shown in Exhibit A to this resolution for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021, and for the purposes indicated within the funds listed are hereby appropriated. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sherwood School District 88J hereby imposes the taxes provided for in the adopted budget at the rate of $4.8123 per thousand of assessed value for operations, and the amount of $15,111,121 for bonds, and that these taxes are hereby imposed and categorized for the tax year 2021 to 22 upon the assessed value of all taxable property within the district.
Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Rose, commitments and policies of the fund balance for the 2021-2022 budget.
Thank you. The second resolution before you is just that. This is a Government Accounting Standards Board number 54 requirement of the board, and it is to set the commitment of the 2020-21 ending fund balance and a commitment of the 2021-22 revenue and the assignment of 2020-21 ending fund balance and then the fund balance spending policy. The attached resolution provides all the required actions associated with this commitment.
And there's an extensive document for this. I think a motion to adopt the commitments as presented would probably be the simplest way to do it.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution committing the fund balance and the fund balance policies.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, that concludes the action items on the budget. Next up is public comment. This is public comment on any topics anyone would like to comment on at all. People are limited to 3 minutes of comment per person. Mr. Emmert will provide a high sign when you've got a minute to go and then let you know when your time has expired. Of course, you're also welcome to provide any longer comments in writing. And this is a chance for us to listen to public comment. We don't usually respond or provide any kind of back and forth. So with that, I've got 3 people who have signed up, and I'll start with Lindsay Brodnick. Did I get that reasonably close? Roderick, got it. If you could just state your name and address for the record and then take off, that'd be great.
Okay, my name is Lindsay Broderick. I live at 16934 Southwest King Richard Court here in Sherwood. I'm a parent of an elementary student and another one to come in this district. And in such a time of so much unrest, I'm actually very grateful to live in a community where I do actually feel safe. And even though I feel safe from drugs and gun violence and riots, I know that others in Sherwood don't feel safe for other reasons. We read of stories, although I haven't heard so many in Sherwood, of depression, anxiety, suicide, and things. And I'm grateful that Sherwood doesn't have a terrible problem with that. But my heart goes out to those kids and those problems. And I appreciate that we are concerned with those issues. I have a long history of working with kids in my church and youth and Sundays, summer camps. I've worked at my local school as an IA, called them TAs in my day. While I earned my degree in education, I taught middle school science. I choose now to stay home with my children, but my home is kind of the neighborhood hub, and I have about a dozen kids running in and out all the time. And I really love that I can help be a nurturing source to these kids. I understand that diversity, equity, and inclusion are hot topics of our day. So I thought I'd ask someone who's at school what it's like. While talking to my neighbor who's a teenager at Sherwood High School, I asked him what school was like socially with his teachers. What's being taught? Sure, you read a book or an article about different things, but are teachers including politics in their classes? And I asked him if he'd ever felt white shamed. And he said, yes, almost weekly. That it's really hard for him to pay attention in school. He has very little respect for his teachers because of the politics that are being brought into the classroom. He tunes them out and he doesn't pay attention to them at all. I can protect my family from drugs. I can teach them. I can work with, violence and riots and whatever else. But it's really difficult for me to be able to teach my children to that it's going to be hard to respect their teachers, but yet I expect them to pay attention in class and to come away learning something. But when they can't trust their teachers and to be politically neutral, that really is something I'm not really prepared to do, that trust issue there. I was concerned when I received an email announcing the creation and hiring of a DEI director. I understand this is a 3-year contract and it's not paid for with district budget, but, and I'm grateful for that. My question is this really necessary? Do we have, Oregon isn't really the most diverse state in the nation, and I understand that. And there's not much that Sherwood can do about that. But I really loved interacting with the Latino families at Hopkins when we were there for 2 years. I lived in Chile for a couple years and loved interacting with Latinos. Is that my time up? Oh, really? Seriously? Ugh.
3 minutes goes by fast.
It does go by fast. Oh my goodness. Can I wrap it up really quick?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The point is that I have lots of interaction with other cultures and I've really loved it. And I go into equity. I would like to know if equity has been something that's been investigated in the schools, if this is a problem that we actually have. And I really believe that inclusion is actually the answer. I would love to submit my statements as to proposals that I have for later, but for you guys to read. However, I question the legitimacy of a district admin position when really I would hope that these funds would be spent more at the school level in a more tangible way. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Where do I submit this?
Yeah, go ahead and give them to Ms. Andrick. Next up is Stacey Robertson.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me okay? My name is Stacey Robertson. I live at 17156 Southwest Stellar Drive in Sherwood. I've always had a good opinion of our school district, but I'm very concerned about the changes I'm seeing. Equity is being used as a catch-all phrase. Sometimes it means nothing more than fairness. Sometimes it's used in place of equality. Good intentions or not, let's be clear. Equity means working towards equal outcomes of racial identity groups. It is the opposite of equal opportunity for all individuals, regardless of race. And you say you're not racializing the equity conversation, but any disparities you find in racial group outcomes will most certainly be blamed on systemic racism and white supremacy. This is all about teaching the anti-racism project, nothing more than emphasizing racial group identity and making moral judgments based on someone's racial group. Students are being taught to see everything through the lens of race. Who is the oppressor and who is the oppressed? Encouraging students to adopt the status of privilege or victimhood. This way of thinking is divisive, destructive, and anti-American. It will damage our students' intellectual and emotional growth. It will destroy true community building. And we see this playing out and how it's playing out in other schools across the country. And either you're being naive about what you're supporting here or you're not being honest. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Robertson.
Hi, I'm Steve Robertson, 17156 Southwest Stellar Drive. I just want to, I'm sorry, I forget your name, but the white shaming that was mentioned. I know you guys know this is a reality. This happens. It may not be the intention, but this is the reality for a lot of kids, and it's wrong. You're making these moral judgments. You're looking at individuals saying, this individual is really a member of a group, a member of a race, and therefore these are this is how we should judge that person. It's exactly the opposite of MLK's message, the uniform message of universal human rights. And it is. So I like Stacey, my wife, just said about the equity, it's definitely a term that's used because the general public thinks it's a wonderful thing. Everybody agrees with equity, but it is used as the umbrella term to bring in their critical race philosophies. And that is how it's brought in. It's going to be the new DEI's director's job to kind of funnel everything in. You're forcing all the teachers to try to implement through the critical race theory lens. And that's a reality. And I think you're being dishonest with the public about this. I know that the Oregon Department of Education puts, constraints on what we can teach and how we can teach it. But there's a lot that we're doing that is not necessary. And I've talked to some kids, and there's a lot of anxiety because there is a feeling of intolerance. You cannot say what you believe. You cannot speak your mind. We are compelling kids to think a certain way. It's pure indoctrination in a lot of situations. It's just the truth. Parents across the country are waking up to this. I'm sure you all know, you're hearing this is a huge issue. And all I hear is it's a Republican right-wing radical, they're just the nut balls, and that's not true. Have you looked at any of the Black intellectuals that are very concerned about this? John McWhorter, Glenn Lowry, Coleman Hughes. There's a bunch of them, but they don't get any kind of media presence because they're not in the correct narrative. And you know what I'm talking about. So parents are waking up to this. This is not going away. We're not going to allow our kids to be indoctrinated this way. It needs to stop. I know it's a longer term project because we are where we are, but we're going to fight this and we're not going to allow it anymore. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there anybody else who was here to testify tonight? Yeah, Nicole, if you want to come up, and then afterwards, if you could fill out the form, that'd be great.
Sorry, I was running late and the sheet was already off. Nicole Bertosky, 22134 Southwest Hines Place here in Sherwood. And I just want to take a minute to really acknowledge and thank the board. I know a lot of what we hear can be negative, and I wanted to take a minute to just mention some of the things that I've seen around that have been really positive. This is not at all what I wanted my son's sophomore year to look like. And I think we all agree that that's where we are. I know a lot of it's been outside of our control. And I don't like to dwell on what we can't change. I like to be thankful for what I have seen. And so these are some of the things that I've seen. I know that there was a presentation a couple months ago about the educational time that our kids have gotten in comparison to other districts. And I love seeing that we were on the top of that. I wish other districts had been able to do that too, but I'm glad that we had that opportunity. But outside of that, I drove by the campus and I saw kids practicing sports all year long on our brand new high school campus. They were following the restrictions. Yeah, they had to wear masks, but they were out there, they were together, and they were playing all year long. I'm a marching band mom. I know that my kid was connected with his marching band family all year long. I got to go to 3 in-person concerts when some of my friends with kids in other districts didn't even get to see their kids play once. My kid got to play at the pep band for the in-person football game with crowds in the stands. He's playing at the basketball game tonight and tomorrow night. These are opportunities that we have as a district that unfortunately not all the districts are taking advantage of. We had our upperclassmen attend prom on campus, where I was seeing other districts, they were having backyard proms because their schools were not able to provide that for them. And we had an in-person graduation with family and friends celebrating, and a lot of districts didn't get to do that. And I hate playing the comparison game, and I wish that all of our districts were able to do this, but I just want to acknowledge and thank the hard work and the dedication that you guys have put into making these things happen. I know that education is important. That's obviously what we send our kids to school for. But all of these things I mentioned are the social, the emotional, the mental health of our kids. And you guys have worked so hard to make that happen. It's been supportive admin at every level with the help of the board that has made that happen. So I am really thankful for the opportunities that we have had despite a super challenging year. So I look forward to next year, but I just want to say thank you to the board that did make that happen this year. So thank you. And I hope you enjoy your summer.
Thank you. Anyone else here to testify who didn't have a chance to sign up? All right, if not, then we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is interdistrict transfers out. Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Chair Allen, Superintendent Cordy, members of the board. Last week, as you know, we opened up slots at the high school to allow for inter-district transfers, so students from outside of our district to attend our high school. I'm back to you this evening for 2 reasons. One, we also by state law have to open up slots for students to exit if they live within the district and want to go to a different school. And you had previously opened 30 slots on March 10th, and we've had a couple of requests since those 30 were filled, and so I'm asking for an additional 10 to be opened up. And then, as we discussed last week with the in the work session, there is a interest in opening slots at the middle school level to partly mostly as a budgetary tool for us. And so one of the questions you had for me at the time that I didn't or couldn't answer was how many slots. And so after doing a bit of analysis and working with both exec and Principal Funderhide, I'm back to ask that we open 15 slots at 6th grade, 10 at 7th, and 5 at 8th grade. Really looking at what does that look like over the next 7 years for those. And so we don't run into any kind of capacity issues.
And just to be clear, those are transfers in.
Yes, sir. Those are transfers in. Those 30 slots would be for students coming from other districts to us. And of course, those students would be a member of our district until they reach graduation, but they would also have to meet the requirements of our district transfer agreement related to attendance and behavior.
Questions for Mr. Rose? So it sounds like what we need is a motion to authorize 10 interdistrict transfers out at the high school level and 30 transfers in at the middle school, broken down by grade as you outlined in the report.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I move that we make the recommended board action as outlined by Mr. Rose.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, that gets us to closing comments. Anyone have anything on their mind before we adjourn? Mike?
Well, this will be my last chance to make the comment that I always harp on when it comes to budget time. As parents, we really, most of our funding does come from Salem, and we get the budget that we ask for and that we work for, or don't. So the current budget in Salem, it's not quite enough money, frankly. We are, over the next few years, we're going to have to eat a little bit into our reserves. We are able to do a no cuts budget, but over the next few years, we have to eat in our reserves to keep it that way. And during good economic times, we shouldn't have to do that because those reserves are for recessions in order to limit the impact of the cuts. So if anyone's out there, are we taping this, by the way? Okay. Please contact your representatives and ask them to, I believe the number that OSBA is working for was 9.6, and it's 9.3 right now. So thank you.
Anyone else? All right, the next board meeting will be on Wednesday, July 28th. If there's nothing else, then we are adjourned.